So this whole thing about space taking is a very important one. Now, I had expected, and this will then be my question, because this is something that we found when we spoke to NGOs in Spain and also NGOs here, that you... no, let's rephrase it. I heard very often in the discussion about involving men and boys, the fear or the worry among women's rights organizations that space and finances will be taken away from them. Do you recognize this concern?
Yes, to a certain extent. It also depends what is the kind of role you give to the men and boys. In certain conversations, in certain policy developments, are they the one who's going to tell you what to do? We had a certain conversation also with women's rights activists abroad, that it can also be an easy way to mansplain women. So that is not something that women and the ones who have
Everybody
survived.
in this room knows the concept of mansplaining. Maybe say in few words about what mansplaining is.
Mansplaining is when men actually, most of them, most of the time, tell you. I actually state the obvious and also tell you actually what you already know, but make it as if they have invented it. When it comes to issues like survivors, so I don't like the word victims, so the survivors of gender-based violence, they actually know what's happening. They actually know the dynamics around that. So it's good to involve men and boys, but also make sure what is the expectation of their role in that conversation.
Yeah. And the financial concern, do you feel that, on a budget level, that in the Netherlands, also in the international cooperation budget, I know that you know all of them, this is your commercial break. How do you see this balance? And do you feel that the concern of these women's rights organizations, also in international context, like, well, if there is only that amount of budget for gender equality, if then men, NGOs and working, they will take away our money?
Well, perhaps that's a battle that we can take up together, because there can be much more when it comes to funding for women's rights and gender equality. Yeah, I think the numbers, but Pascal, you know it better than I do. Only like within USO DAC, only 1% goes directly to women's rights organization. So even if within that 1% men also want to compete with women on this issue, I don't think that's good, and also not a positive development. But perhaps we can take that battle together and push for more funding.
It shouldn't be a zero-sum game.
Exactly.
No? Thank you, Laila. Thank you. And I will come back. We'll come back to you later, because I would like you to stay also when we go into the audience. Then it's my great honor to introduce you to my friend and source of inspiration, Baba Tarawali, who recently published a book in Dutch. The title is De Getemde Man. In English, I think it translates into, let's do some women's planning here, into The Tamed Man. Baba, I got to know you as somebody who is very outspoken about inclusive approach when it comes to gender equality. You're a columnist. You are a journalist, a program maker, you train young people, you're a masculinity expert, you're the father of two amazingly beautiful, smart girls, so I know they keep you sharp. So the floor is yours, Baba. What is your take on the topic of today? What are we doing right and what should we do better from your experience?
Thank you very much, Petra, and thank you all for being here. One of the biggest advantage of having a writer, a creative thinker in a political forum like this, is that I think out of the box, in the sense I don't belong to a political party, I don't belong to an organization, I don't have an interest being sitting here to say anything. So everything I say it out of my own experience and out of things I see through my own eyes. So I may say things that you don't like, but let's just say it's his opinion, it's not a fact. So I've been listening to the other speakers, and I've been following this topic, and I've written a book about it. It is not an easy approach, but I have hope because, we have a new generation of kids who are changing iPhone every year. They are using to changes. And we in the old guard, we hold on to what we know. We hold on to traditions and culture. We don't want to let it go. We are afraid. And I was coming the train and I spoke to a guy from Africa and I told him, the artificial intelligence that has come, we are also afraid of it. When the mobile phone came, we were afraid to have a mobile phone. Internet, we were afraid of it. But now, I can't live without my mobile phone. So things are changing, and I'm positive that the next generation of kids, my daughters, are going to make a difference. So coming back to this main topic, when I wrote my book, I wrote it because I saw that this is a topic that will continue the coming 5, 6, 7 years. That's why I wrote it. Because I came from Sierra Leone in West Africa. I came from a patriarchal setting where I was born to be a prince, a follower of my father, a king. My sisters were born to take care of the house. Let me just say it plainly like that. And I saw how there is imbalance in the whole system of man and woman. And as a child, I was very curious to see why are my sisters being treated this way and why am I getting more opportunities, more privileges. So we men, to let go our privileges is something which we have difficulty doing. And that is the stage we have reached, that we should step back a bit, allow women also to take over some certain things we think. Because there is a difference between, for me, equality and, how you say it, gelijkwaardigheid and gelijkheid, equity. So there is a difference. So I said in my book also that the difference between men and women are hormones. For the rest, we are all the same. Just the hormone difference. That I don't see my period, okay, that is nature. And it gives me another different way of thinking. So if we make education paramount, especially for the young generation, to see that that's the only difference we have. For the rest, we are all the same. And so education is paramount, and parents should start from day one, as Alia said. Day one to say, this is the way we should treat our kids. We should give them a different way of perception to look at the world, and we should not make a difference between the sexes. So when I say, I was in the asylum center, I came to Holland as a refugee, so I was in the asylum center, and what significant thing that happens, when we came there, most of us from Africa, from Iraq, Syria, when we came to Holland, we saw a big difference. We saw that women here are already being taking spaces. And one of the things that happened was that when you have your card for your weekly money, those with women and kids, they gave the card to the women, not to the men. And this was a big fight, big problem in the asylum centers, because the men who are used to be the head in their country of origin, and now they are giving the bank pass to the women. Because they trusted the women that when they give the women the bank pass, they will not go and drink. They have to take care of their kids. And which was true at the time, because most of the men were very much in the psychological, some trance, they have this problem of war, and they drink a lot. So when they have the money for the kids, they go out to buy drinks. So instead, they give it to the women. But the communication aspect of it was very interesting, how to tell the men, this is the reason why we do it. And also, what happened also, we saw that every week, once a week, there's this Dutch lady who comes to the asylum center to teach men about their rights, which was very effective. Even one of my friend, Nicolas, I will call his name, he was having his Angola, he's from Angola, he told me, Baba, since my wife is going for these classes, she has changed in bed. And I was saying, what? She has changed enormously, and we are really enjoying ourselves now. I said, huh? Yeah, because she has emancipated, she thinks, and she takes certain roles which she didn't do there. So there are men who see the advantages. and they accept it. So this is what we should be promoting. Let's know that we as men, we have to give privileges, not as something against us, but to say we give privilege because we will get it in return. In the African philosophy of Ubuntu, which I'm really a fan of, like we see this hand, we say in Ubuntu that these fingers are all, they're not equal, but they all belong to one hand. So this is unity. So we are all together in this. So we should not be scared. Let me just cut it short. Perhaps you have questions, but we should not be scared as men, because my book came out and I have a lot of conflicting reactions from people from African descent. My African brothers, some of them were very angry with my book because I brought things out which they didn't like. You know, they said a man should be a man. I said, but what is that? A man should be a man. You know, a man should be a man. And that's the reason why in my book I made 3 types of men. The tame man, then you have the untamed man, then you have the caged man. So I was saying the caged man should also be freed, because the caged man, these are the men, when they are given the slightest opportunity, they explode. So when you see family dramas, things happen in families, stalking, these are men who are caged mostly. So I say the contempt man, which is the tame man, is a man who has a balance between feminine and masculine energy. Because people see it as a very negative connotation of the tame man, but it's a man who has a balance in feminine and masculine. And the uncontempt man, we're mostly 100% masculine. And in the communication in the West, I say in my book, we need the contempt man, the tame man, because that's the one that really fits the balance in communication, in listening, and in accepting change. You know, so let me stop here for now. And because if not, I will go further and further and further.
This is the, yes, please give a warm hand to Baba. And this is the email address, women@pace.int, international. If you have any observation, comments, something you want to share from your organization, and we will make sure that we will integrate this in the work we're doing. Baba, you were saying about the reactions of your book, on your book, and I saw you got really a lot of attention from news media, from radio, television. What was the reaction that surprised you the most when it comes to masculinity and your own vision of masculinity? Did you get a question where you're like, this is bringing me further also in my thought on masculinity?
I think the role, what we call the different role we were born to play. You know, men from birth are born to play a certain role. And we think women are also having a role which is more follow, and the men lead. So most of my own friends, especially, they try to question that. You know, if we change the role, we are changing the whole system of nature.
The natural order of things.
Yes, we are changing the whole system of nature. But my answer to them was that the world is changing so fast that we don't have a choice. The only choice we have is just like Darwin said, it's not the species that is most strong that survive, but the species that are adaptable to change. You know?
It's a very interesting one. And talking about reactions to your book and masculinity, were the reactions different from your male friends or your female friends?
Well, yes. The female friends, mostly, they really like the book. You know, they really like the book. And most of my male friends, they see me, what we call in Dutch, a verrader.
A traitor.
A traitor, trying to tell them to give away the right. And so I get this discussion with them, and I tell them, because I made a certain differences in my book when I come to, you know, I made jokes in my book about men, dividing men into animal kingdom.
Yes.
You know, having the hyena, you have the lion, you have the wolf, you have the tiger. You know, I made this joke about it. We are in this type of behaviors in animals being translated to human beings. You know, and I tell them we are not animals. We are human beings. So if there's a prominent friend who was very critical of my book, that I'm giving away men's secret to women, you know, and I was thinking, I'm not giving men's secret to women. This book I wrote just like a leader of an orchestra. You know, when I write my book, I said, for me, just like a leader of an orchestra who turns his back to the group, That's how I see myself, because I have a bigger goal. You know, it's not about me. I'm talking about the theme that will benefit mankind, benefit the world. And it's not about me protecting our group, protecting small group of people, myself. No, we need to change. That's the only thing we have to do.
We need to change.
We need to change.
That's a good point to move to Maarten van Rossum. Thank you very much, Baba. Could you switch off your mic, please? Maarten, we've known each other from our mutual career in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And I have a very vivid memory of an amazing event that you presented together with Nancy Polion in the Zuidas. And the Zuidas is like, it's the financial district of the Netherlands. And I can tell you the room looked completely different from this one. Different dress, different everything, different vibe. And I felt when I saw you speak, this was about how men can be an advocate for visibility of women on the workplace. I saw you speak, and then afterwards we talked about it also together with Pascal. How can we join forces? And I'm using this term. How can we be each other's allies? Because I was impressed by the type of discussion. And I felt that the financial district and political The Hague and also NGO families, they never really meet each other. Now, going to the topic of today, when it comes to masculinity, when it comes to mindful masculinity, and also how can we involve men and boys, I would really like to hear your vision on how to involve men and boys in the business community. It's interesting. Actually, you always say community when it's a minority or a disenfranchised group. Business community. But business community.
Yeah.
Maarten, the floor is yours, and he needs some applause as well, of course.
And if I can ask you to repeat that for Petra, because we haven't applauded you yet. Because I think, actually, the question you ask, how do we bring these two worlds together? Let's maybe
that through the theme of being allies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you play a big role in that, and also the report you wrote plays a big role in that. I think legal frameworks, policies, and everything are the foundation, I think, of society. Also gives direction, of course, to people what we as societies want. I think currently it's too comfortable for men to do nothing. To basically sit down and watch this all evolve, and then at a certain point, it's hard to redress nature. So doing nothing is quite comfortable. Where I, like the other and previous speakers, think that equality is a human right. So we don't let hunger somewhere else being solved by the people that are hungry. We try to help everybody. It's a human right. So it's for everybody. Everybody has a task. I think dialogue is important, because what you see a lot is that you see men talking to each other, women talking to each other, and not much happens there. I found out during my time in Afghanistan, we were really focused on, with our gender efforts, we were really focused on the women. But I basically said we have to start talking to these men, because they are the ones blocking it. And when we started doing that, we saw small openings, I must say, but we at least saw some progress. So that's where I really got, let's say, infected with the virus. And I think if you look currently at business, it's really also, there's a lot of people that are well-willed, but they're not spoken to. And I think there's a lot of people that also don't know what to do. So that's what we're trying to address in my current work. We try to address, you get educated at schools, but then you are left to your employer.
I forgot to tell people what you do. You're a man of many, many talents. Renaissance man, but I'm sorry for not introducing you properly as the head of strategy of influence, but then people still don't know what work you do, so maybe in one sentence?
Let's keep it that way. Now, we try to help people basically that want to solve societal issues, getting the right story and getting the right influence to actually get the wave going. So we are wave makers, right? But what we try to do is to basically also show people, okay, if this is expected from all of us by reports, by laws, by frameworks, what do we then do? Because after school, your next, let's say, educational place is probably your workplace. And it's fantastic to see how adult people like all of us are being incentivized by their employers for right behavior, right? So this is what we also try to do through business, and I called it business as a force for good. There's a lot of businesses that are now really serious about, making societal impact. We try to get that off paper and into practice. And I think the equality between men and women when it comes to career chances, when it comes to safe workplaces, when it comes to visibility, of course, on the work floor, but also the pay gap, of course. These are all things that are normally handled in the workplace, right? And incentivizing people right, with very tangible things to do, makes it quite easy for people to start being part of the movement. Because if you don't know what is expected, and I must say I recognize some of Baba's words, that if you speak out as a man, it's also sometimes a dangerous place. I don't want to portray
Tell us
myself.
about this campaign when you were Petra for a week.
I was you for a week. No, last year we ran a campaign with a group under the guidance of Nancy and the family and Women Inc., which was called My Name is Peter, because for those who are not Dutch, there's more CEOs called Peter in the Netherlands than there are female CEOs, which is, it's not this year anymore, so we need to find a new tagline, but still the problem is...
There were 5 people called Peter, huh? So that's about the statistics. Can you tell
dramatic.
me?
Yeah. So there were a lot of women that called themselves Peter for a week and actually also asked attention on social media for this. Yeah, it's a very weird statistics, to be honest, but it's also very serious. And then with a group of men and boys, we started to replicate, and we called ourselves Petra, or Petrushka, so variants on Peter. And then I'm a rugby coach at my son's rugby club, and you know, they were asking me all the time, "Hey Petra, are we going to have a beer together soon?" Yeah. So, of course, I can handle this, but my son was asking me, like, "Why are they calling you Petra?" So I started to explain the dynamics. You know, how many grown-ups do you know? Percentage men and women. How many leaders do you know in it? And he also thought it was unfair, but he also understood. He said, "Yeah, boys are stronger." Yeah. And then I think it was Humori who said, you know, you're formed before the age of 6. He's 8. so I thought, well, there's a problem here. So I consciously at home work on this, but also in the workplace. I really think you should really give men very tangible things. So not just policies, but very tangible things you want to see in behavior in the workplace, and also tap into male behavior there. Men love competition, so make it a competition. Men love to be, you know, put on a stage here, right? So make use of all these...
It worked with you.
Luckily, yeah, no, but make use of all these dynamics, I would say, to push men into the right direction. If they raise their hand, I would really say, and I think I have Baba and Laila on my side, say, give them a little bit of a protected entrance. Not immediately expect them to speak, let's say, Chinese fluently in one day. And I always say, back in the day when you were a vegetarian, you always had to explain, you know, people really started to criticize you. Oh, do you eat fish? Do you wear shoes? Do you do this? So let's say, let's not do that. Let's embrace the men and boys that are in there to make them part of the solution that was said as said in the previous panel, and bring them in. And I think really, Pascal, I have to applaud you what you're doing in the ministry with creating these ambassadors that I think a year ago didn't have any feelings about feminist foreign policy. And now they do have it. And they actually start, so it's quite easy. They're willing to help, but you should, I think, ask them. So my call to action is call all your CEO friends, call all your colleagues and tell them, you know, be part of the movement and bring them in. It's quite easy, I would say.
Yeah, and I think the Istanbul Convention actually gives quite some angles for the business community as well. Maybe I hear you say mainstreaming instead of mainstreaming. Mainstreaming.
Yeah. If it works, then let's do it.
We should do some mainstreaming. Well, thank you very much. Please, a warm hand for Maarten. Now, I have a list of names here, and I know one of the names on this list needs to leave in about 5 to 7 minutes. And she's already smiling at me because she knows that I refer to her. So how I'm going to do this now, I'm going to ask a few people that I talked to before, who are representing either government or NGOs or other organizations. Please stay here and take notes. I'll ask like 5, 6 people, then we see how much time we have. And of course, I would like to have your reactions as well. And then our Secretary General, Despina, will also give some closing statements. We started like 20 minutes late, so if you allow me, we will run 10, 15 minutes beyond 4:30. Is that okay? And don't feel bad if you leave, then I know it's not boring, but you